improving this world simply by the energetic state that you're in, because of the zest and the love and the embrace that you have for this wonderful experience that we call life. Because life is not supposed to be a struggle. Life is not supposed to be an experience whereby you are measured by the amount of digits on the screen. You have to spend your time collecting stuff and trying to improve your social status because it is the only way you'll be viewed as being worthwhile by the rest of a corrupt society. You don't have to spend your life in that way, folks. You are here to be the unique expression of creation that is you, and to experience and express the art of yourself. And that's what everybody on this planet should do. And just imagine if everybody did that. If everybody started doing that, then the world would change in one day. And I believe that's a huge part of it, folks. Coming to terms with yourself, realizing that you are perfect in all that you do, and you have no reason to judge yourself by any of the parameters that have been set up by this society. Life is not about that. Life is far more than that. It's coming to these realizations, folks. This is what is needed in the world. This is a big part of it. Once we change our perspective and we start coming to these realizations and start embracing ourselves and embracing the art of our own life, then the world will change. Then we'll realize that we don't need government at all. As I've said many times recently, folks, in the world today, the only reason we really need government is to address all the problems that the government creates for us. So they've kind of created a situation whereby we need them to fix up their mess. And just realizing that problem is a huge part of it as well, because that gives us the ability to step above that as well. You see, we can step above the system once we understand that the system is fiction, folks. Once we understand what's really going on in this world, we can step above it all. Once we realize that all we've got in this current social and economic system that we live under is a system of slavery, a system of human trafficking, once we realize exactly what's going on here, once we realize how much we've been led away from the art of ourselves and led away from the truth of ourselves and led away from ourselves in general by the system of commerce that's been imposed over our mentality, then we have a hope of creating a better future. But we've got to realize these things first. We've got to really step back and see things for what they are. And the commercial system really is the biggest problem that we face. It's the source of all of our difficulties, folks. When you look at all the corners that have been cut in production that have caused problems, when you look at all the corners that have been cut in industrial practices that have caused environmental catastrophes, all of these things have happened because of financial incentive. It's been far more profitable to pollute the environment, to destroy the world, than it has been to do otherwise. The only reason we have homelessness and the only reason we have starvation is because the commercial model has been superimposed over the mind of man, whereby we would actually allow people to starve because there isn't the money to feed them. But you don't eat money, you eat food, and the food is right there, but these people can't have the food because they don't have the money. It's ridiculous. And even looking at a scenario like that, you can easily see what the real purpose of money is, and that is to create scarcity. I mean, sure, money can create abundance for those who have a lot of it, but they can only achieve that abundance by putting other people into a state of scarcity. Because people are only able to achieve monetary abundance or monetary prosperity, which is what it really is, rather than abundance. But they're only able to achieve this prosperity due to their exploitation of other people. So it's out of balance right from the onset, and there's no way it can ever be in balance. The imposition of a commercial system is always going to create a situation whereby there are haves and there are have-nots. And it creates that situation because that is the very purpose of the commercial system. The purpose of the commercial system is to create scarcity and to make more and more of humankind expendable, so that more and more of humankind can be discarded along the way, so that eventually the only population we have left are those people that are needed to run the machine. People talk about the big depopulation plan that's coming, and folks, it's already well underway, and it's being implemented via the economic model. That's what they do. They just go up the rungs of the ladder and they expel more and more of humanity along the way, and nobody really notices what's going on the lower rungs because they're all caught up in this social system whereby they're measuring themselves by their stuff, and those people that are being discarded, it's okay to discard them because they're lesser people, and I can tell they're lesser people because they had less stuff than me. And that's the mentality of this society. And that's where the depopulation comes in, and it's happening right before our eyes, folks. It's happening every day. And it's happening in places that you wouldn't expect it to be happening, folks. It's happening to farmers here in Australia. If you really want to see depopulation in motion, folks, have a look at the coal seam gas industry. We've got the utterly corrupt New South Wales government in Australia now pushing this industry as the most important industry in New South Wales. In other words, the New South Wales government in Australia believes that the most important thing it can do for the people of its state is to destroy the water table in order to line their own pockets and to send all of Australia's natural resources straight off overseas for foreign corporations to profit from. This is the stance of the New South Wales government. These scumbags, folks, these criminals who actually believe that they have the power to destroy our water table and believe they're going to get away with it because they wrote rules in a book. This is the attitude that they're displaying against the people. Hopefully this will cause the people of New South Wales to wake up. Hopefully it will cause the people to view the New South Wales government as an entity that they have lost all confidence in, and an entity that needs to step down to be replaced by people who have at least some degree of intelligence, or at least enough intelligence to see the danger in destroying Australia's groundwater in order to support a fictional economic model. Most especially when all of the economics that are being generated by the industry will in fact go straight overseas. And the loss of these farmers to supply Australia with food will of course ripple out to the communities in general across Australia, and we'll see a huge rise in the cost of food because most of our food will need to be imported because our food bowl is being destroyed by this insanely corrupt and highly pollutive and incredibly environmentally toxic industry. And so ultimately coal seam gas will see a further degradation of the standard of living of the general population in Australia, and a further erosion of any security that people have built up in their lives. And this of course ties in very much with Agenda 21 as well, because the goal is to push people into concentrated pockets of civilization such as cities. They don't really want people living in the country, folks, because it's very difficult to control people who are self-sufficient and living in a rural setting. And they don't really want people running private farms. They want big, huge monocrop farms all running GM food for the population, because once they impose GM food over the population, they can marginalise different sections of population and they can control the population by simply controlling the genetics of the food that the people consume. As we've clearly seen from studies that have been conducted on animals, it will be very easy to marginalise and control sections of the population, indeed whole countries, by feeding them certain types of food, because you can induce sterility within a certain population over 3 generations. These people will believe that they're getting good food, but over 3 generations you can reduce them to a state where they are now unable to breed. And they won't even realise that it's the food that's doing it to them. They'll just think there's some virus that's suddenly taken over their country and people seem to be having some sort of genetic problems. They'll never really attribute it to the food, or even if they do, it will be far too late. But as I said, we can see through studies that have been conducted on animals that this is exactly what genetically modified food does. It causes severe genetic damage to the subject, but it takes a series of generations for this damage to become apparent. And as I said, of course, then it's too late, folks, because what are you going to do? Say, oh, look, I believe your food's been causing this genetic damage with our population, and what's Monsanto and these companies going to do? They'll say, well, look, I'll tell you what, we don't think so, but just to keep you safe, we'll have a study. We'll conduct a 30-year study on the effects of this food to see what happens. But then, of course, in 30 years, everybody's dead, and there's no reason for them to complete the study. That's what they always do, folks. They go, oh, look, it's terrible that this problem's happening. We'll conduct a study over the next 10 or 20 or 30 years just to see what the results are, when we already know what the results are, which is why we're complaining to them in the first place. But they don't address the problem, folks. They just tie it up in red tape and bureaucracy and let things play their course. And very often people are programmed enough to think that once they've got a result, that the government is actually conducting a study into it, then they've got a positive result and things are going to move forward. They don't realise that it's all part of the plan. The study's already been done, and we know that the government's wrong, which is why you are sick in the first place, which is why you went to government to begin with. So, yes, folks, the study's already been done. You were the study. People just don't seem to think about things that way. And they always believe they have to petition government to bring about change, when really what we need to do is to step above the whole thing, and rather than petition them to mandate that they implement the changes we want, and if they refuse to do so, to dismiss them through the power of a united community. And that may sound like an impossibility, folks, but really it's not. Not if the community can unite and realise that all we are dealing with are people who wrote a whole bunch of silly rules in their silly books, and they trained us to be silly enough to believe that their silly rules give them the ability to steal everything we own from us. And that's really the whole situation in a nutshell, folks. It's all basically a state of collective stupidity that we are in as a species, and we really do need to wake up to ourselves and put things right again, folks. We don't have to let government do anything that it's doing, and all we have to do to stop it is to remember who and what we are and stand in the power of our flesh. I've said that to you so many times before, and it may sound simplistic, but the fact is that it's true, folks. That's what we can do, because there isn't anybody on this planet who has any more or less worth or any more or less authority than anybody else. We are all in this together, and we are all created equal. The choice of whether to claim that equality and to stand in that equality lies with each individual. It's just that we've been trained not to think that way. We've been trained to always be subservient to authority. This is what our scholastic years are all about, folks. That's the main purpose. Apart from the fact that they train you to think in a left-brain manner, they also train you to always respect authority, because it's essential to the smooth running of this system that we believe the authority is real, that we believe the rules are real, that we believe the laws are actually real, and that we believe commerce is real. If it wasn't for that, this society and the slavery system that it supports could not function in any way, shape or form. Its functionality can only be achieved through the compliance of the people, and this can only be achieved by removing the people from any true knowledge of themselves. And that's what's been done, folks. It's been a very clever system. But really, when you step back and look at it, it becomes virtually transparent, and you can really see how the mechanism works. Because it's all a facade, folks. This whole legal, economic, social structure that enslaves us, it's just a facade. It's just a matrix. It's not real. And we don't have to do what these people say. In fact, quite the opposite. They're just public trustees, folks. That's all they are. And if we can put down our stuff with each other and unite as a community, we have the ability to change the world. We can do it today. We can do it tomorrow. We can do it any time we decide to put down our stuff with each other and participate in building a better future. It's really that simple. But I think we're at break time here now, folks, so I'll leave it there for now. It's a pleasure having your company with me on the show today, and I will speak to you again in a few minutes. Thanks for listening. And welcome back, folks. So, the reason I went through my dysfunctional youth for you at the start of the broadcast today was because I wanted to point out to you how sometimes we are very insecure about our own uniqueness, because that's really what was going on with me. Really, when I look at it, it was a product of television. It was a product of the programming around me, because I saw these images of people on the television who were a certain way, and they looked pretty cool, and you kind of, when you're a kid, you aspire to be like these people. And I didn't see that I was anything like any of these people. And so I felt myself to be a lesser person. I was essentially repelled by my own uniqueness. I was essentially repelled by my own inability to be like the role models that had been put there for me to aspire to. And it took a very long time before I realized that this was quite literally a program that I'd been running. I had been programmed when I was a child to believe that I had to be a certain thing, and I had to behave in a certain way, and I had to aspire to certain goals. And if I was not able to do so, I would never be successful. Because, of course, success is measured by social and financial status. according to the parameters of this society. And yet I was simply not able to profit from people. Even when I was doing the right thing and it was all above board and that's the money that I was supposed to be getting, I still felt bad about selling something for more than I bought it for, or for making something and selling it at all, because usually if I made something, I'd want to give it away. When I was younger, I did hundreds and hundreds of very, very detailed drawings and pieces of artwork when I was a teenager, and I gave every single one of them away. Most of them I gave to the one person. She was kind of hanging around. Whenever I'd finish a picture, she'd say thank you, and I'd give it to her, and she'd put it in her photo album. And she wasn't even my girlfriend. She was just a friend. She was just part of the crew that we used to hang around with. And so I've always found it very, very difficult to be able to profit from people. It's just not part of my psychological makeup. And every time I've tried to do it, it's always gone wrong. I just something happens and I can't do it. I just much prefer to give things. It just feels natural to me to give. I remember when I was younger, I had a lot of friends who used to pay out on me because I gave so much. I would give something away, and one of my friends would look at me and say, "You're an idiot. Why do you do that? Why do you give everything you own away? You're a fool. You could have sold that to him. You're an idiot. You're never going to make it." And I just used to think, why would you sell something to a friend? Why would I want to turn one of my friends into a commodity? Why would I want to use them to profit from? Why, if I've got something here that they want that I don't particularly use anymore, would I not give it to them so they could experience the same pleasure that I did from that object when I did use it? Why would I want to, rather than give it to them, sell it to them and thereby remove some of that pleasure from them? Wouldn't it be more pleasurable for them as a gift? Why would I want to view every relationship as a business transaction? And like I said, folks, I tried for a while. I tried to do the things other people did, and I just couldn't do it. It just didn't work for me. Whenever I tried, it all went wrong, and I just couldn't ever do it. I just always believed that giving was the best thing to do, and I always believed that if we respected each other and we treated each other like ourselves, then all of these problems wouldn't exist. And this was way back when I was a teenager. I felt like this, and it just carried through into my adult years. Which I tell you, folks, it makes for a pretty dysfunctional person. When you're that way, you think that way, and you feel that way, and you're trying to survive within this society, it's a pretty dysfunctional life that you're living. And in many ways, I would say that, according to the parameters of this society, my life was very dysfunctional. But when I look at it as a human experience, I think it was highly functional. I think it was absolutely perfect because it brought me to where I am now. It brought me to the understandings that I have now. And without having those experiences, I would never have gained these understandings. I would never have gained the insights that I have. And the reason I've gone through all this, folks, is because I'm perceiving that there is a lot of people out there who feel the same way, and a lot of people who judge themselves poorly when really it's because of their uniqueness. And it's because they see their own uniqueness as being a flaw and separating them from what they think they should be according to the parameters of this society. But folks, this society is dysfunctional. This society has nothing to do with supporting the human experience. It has nothing to do with helping you express the art of your life, and everything to do with removing you from the art of your life and molding you into something that you're not, into a clone that society wants you to be, and training you to function in a certain way whereby your actions benefit the ruling hand at the top, the slave masters who run the whole system. That's the way this society has been constructed. So if you're feeling that your uniqueness is detrimental to your health, your uniqueness is a handicap, then you're really looking at things from the wrong way. And again, you're only looking at things that way because you're programmed to look at things from that way. You're trained to look at things from that way. And it's very clever, folks. It's a very clever subliminal program that they've got running here, because very often we will feel inspired by our uniqueness while judging ourselves poorly because we're different from everybody else at the same time. It's kind of like an opposing dichotomy that's happening within our minds. Right there at the back of the minds. It's there in the subconscious, very often in a lot of people, and it's a program. Because really it is our uniqueness that is the most valuable thing that we have. Each one of us. This is who you are. And so, of course, it is the most valuable thing that you have. Because the most valuable thing you have is your consciousness. The freedom to think what you want to think and to do what you want to do. The freedom to be as unique as you are able and to express yourself in a way that only you can. And this is everything that our society attempts to lead us away from. Because this society does not like independent thought. It does not like free thinking. It does not like new ideas, because with a new idea comes a shift in the role of government. When people start introducing new ideas into the pot, then it means change, and change may mean that the government may lose its power over something. It can't have change. You can't implement a new idea unless we can find a way of regulating that idea so that it fits within these little parameters and we can tax it. That's what government's about. And it's all designed to remove you from the human experience and to squash the uniqueness of yourself, to put you in a position where you are never able to fully express the art of your own life and never able to realize your own creative potential. That is exactly what this society is designed to do. It doesn't care about people. It cares about the system. It cares about industry. Like I was mentioning in the start of the show, what's going on here with coal seam gas mining. This ridiculously sociopathic New South Wales environmental minister, I think his name's Ian Macfarlane, has said that this is the most important industry to this state. Folks, there is no such thing as an important industry. What is important is people. No industry is important, not if people suffer at the hands of that industry. Again, folks, it's just a matter of perspective. Mankind created industry to service mankind. So, of course, industry is not more important than mankind, and if mankind is suffering due to the actions of said industry, then that industry needs to be closed down immediately. To me, that's just common sense, regardless of whatever damage it does to whatever fictional economic model, because it is fiction. And commerce should not be allowed to interfere with the human experience. Commerce is simply a means of trade. It's nothing more. It is certainly not the be-all and end-all, and the economy, I believe, is the least important thing in any country. And many people may be shocked in that statement. They may be shocked and wonder how anyone could possibly think something so ridiculous as the economy being unimportant. But that is simply because these people are locked into the left brain, and they are fully locked into the system of commerce that has been superimposed over the human psyche. Because the system of commerce is a very, very insidious thing, and once it has been introduced over the human psyche and superimposed over reality, then anybody who has used that system finds it very, very difficult to think of life without commerce. It's almost like a mental virus or a psychic parasite that infects people's minds, and once they get locked into that way of thinking, they just can't break free of the program. It's a very, very strong program, folks, and I find it fascinating to see how dependent people are upon the economic model and the links they will go to defend the economic model, discarding humanity all along the way in order to balance the books. To them, that is the most important thing. These books must be balanced. But all these books are little ink spots on pieces of paper or digital numbers on a computer screen. They don't mean anything. They're not real. You can't eat them. You can't sleep under them. You can't build with them. You can't do anything with them. All they do is place people in a state of scarcity because the numbers say that's what it must be. The system of commerce has been superimposed over the mind of mankind is a pathogen, folks, a psychic pathogen that has been responsible for all the death, destruction and devastation, loss of life and environmental damage that we have seen on this planet. It alone has reduced the human experience and the planet that we live on to what we see before us today. And we alone are the only ones with the ability to rectify this problem and to rein our governments in and to steer the ship of state back in the direction that it should be going, a direction that will lead back to human freedom, take us full circle back to where we should be. And this, of course, is a lot of what I hope to achieve with the Full Circle project that I intend to launch later in the year, folks, and that will need audience participation. If you want to get involved in it, then you can do so in your own town. You don't even need me to come there. That's the way I want to organise it. I just want to put out a template, and I need help from people. I need suggestions from people, and I need support from people to do it, because we need to find a way of empowering the community and a way that empowers each individual within the community so that the movement that is started is a movement of consciousness where there are no leaders. It is an idea whose time has come. And that's what we have to do. We've got to realize that we cannot allow ourselves to remain enslaved to a paper-based reality that is destroying the world around us. We cannot allow politicians to say that there's no way to roll back fluoride in the water because it's done, the deal is done, and it cannot be turned back. That's literally what they said here again in New South Wales in Australia, folks. The New South Wales minister said that it doesn't matter who wants to take fluoride out of the water in the state. There's no way to roll it back because the deal has been made. And that's what they think, folks. That's how deranged these politicians are. They literally believe that we can't just turn the tap off and take the tanks off the water system because some sociopathic politician wrote some gibberish down on a piece of paper. That's what they believe. And I think that any politician who actually believes that should be up for a psychiatric evaluation, personally, because we can roll everything back, folks. It doesn't matter what they wrote down on pieces of paper, because that's all it is. It's just some sociopath's idea that he put down as a new means of controlling the human experience. And we don't have to let them get away with it. However, I do believe that the only way we can ever stop them getting away with it is to rediscover ourselves and choose to do things differently. And again, folks, this will only ever come from respect, won't it? It'll only come when people start respecting their own uniqueness and respecting the uniqueness of others. And I know that I've beat this drum on this show for 6 years now to the point that it must be getting monotonous, folks. But I don't know, I have this information in my head and I can see it so clearly how to save every man, woman and child on this planet and change the direction we're going in if people could see the reality of what I'm saying and see the need to change the direction that we're going in. And sometimes I wonder what it will take for mankind to listen to this message and to see the way out that is so clear before them. It is so clear and it is so simple how to fix this situation, folks. It really is. If people could just put down their stuff and change their perspective, then we could change the world in one day. I really do believe this, and those who attack me and say, you say all this stuff but you don't provide us with any solutions, have to understand that I don't have the solution for you. You have the solution for you. And the solution for you is you. All you have to do is realize the potential of yourself. This is what I've been attempting to bring to people for 6 years now on these radio shows, folks, and that is the solution. There is no paper you can fill out. There is no movement to join. The movement is you. The movement is a movement of consciousness. You have to be prepared to change your perspective and to look at things differently and to step into it, step into the role. Don't just be a passive observer. Look at things for what they are and approach things from the correct perspective. Don't be led down the path of some movement by whatever controlled opposition is put there for you to follow. Here in Australia, lock the gate, all this sort of stuff. Why are they trying to address coal seam gas mining from a legal perspective? Why can't they see that all the legal system is are words written on pieces of paper by the same sociopaths that started the industry and want the industry to go forward, and that they've written these so-called laws in order to tie you up in red tape so that you're not able to stop the industry, and as soon as you choose to step above it and realise that these politicians are in breach of trust for even doing what they did, there is your solution. Why can't people see that? Because that is the solution. There is no remedy in the legal system. There never will be remedy in the legal system for any problem that we face. The real problem that we face is commerce. That's why coal seam gas is happening, because of commerce. That's why all of the mining and destruction and the rape of this planet is happening. It's in order to support the economic model. It's all about commerce. That's why people are homeless. It's about commerce. That's why people are rulers and we have tyrants through society, is because of commerce. That's why we have governments. That's why we have wars. That's why we have destruction of the environment. That's why we have starvation. It's all because of commerce. Why can't people realize that? Why can't people realize what the commercial system actually is? All it is a mechanism by which mankind is disinherited from their heritage, disinherited from who they are, disinherited from what is there for them, disinherited from the abundance that the earth provides for us naturally by its own means, all because of the commercial system, all because of commerce. whereby we judge each other, we profit from each other, we steal from each other, we spend our lives attempting to gain different rungs on the social ladder because we believe that's what reality is. It's a joke, folks, and it is not what mankind is. It is not who you are. And I would ask every man, woman and child who listens to this show to just stop and take a moment and look around you and see the beauty of the people, see how they're struggling, see what they're caught up in, see what this society is and see what it's doing to this planet. And realize how easily we could fix it if we simply respected each other. You know, everything we've created, this whole social system, folks, it's all a creation of mankind. It's all a creation of our imagination, a creation of our mind. And we've created a system whereby we are the least important thing within its parameters. And this is not acceptable. And it is not acceptable to have our environment destroyed around us. Our environment is our wealth. Our environment is our health. Our environment is who we are. We can't live a full life, a complete life, a healthy life if we don't have a healthy environment to live in. And we cannot afford to allow politicians to destroy our environment in order to balance their books and support their economic model simply because they wrote stuff down on paper. This is the real problem, folks. This is something that I've been beating to death on this show for years now. This is such a problem that people cannot see above this ridiculous legal system. They think it's real. It's not. It's paper. It's not real. And the sheer stupidity of our police forces these days, these people who are actually putting on uniforms and daring to claim that they're protecting society, and they're going out there and are allowing and supporting corporate corruption and the rape of this country and the discarding of human life within this country simply because some sociopathic politician wrote something down on a piece of paper,